Yo guys, what is up? My name is Gian and welcome back to FPL Tribe. In this video we're going to have a quick look at our Game Week 11 scores and how we did. A massive green arrow once again, as I'm really happy with how the team is performing at the moment moving into Game Week 12. I think Game Week 12 is the start of a massive pile up of fixtures. I think it's like 10 game weeks in 40 days. So this can really determine your season going from a good one to a bad one, or a bad one going from a good one. And I'm really excited to just go into the schedule, planning really hard what transfers we want to do. As we know, planning is really essential in FPL, knowing what you want to do instead of just reacting to how players are performing, looking at fixtures, looking at players in form, and making the right decision over the long run of the season will benefit you in the end. So I'll also look at my Game Week 12 captaincy options and transfers. We do have 2 free transfers, as I'm not 100% sure yet what to do, but I will discuss with you guys as we go on. Having a look at our Game Week 11 points, as you guys can see, a very good weekend for us, 72 points. Really happy with how this team is looking at the moment. Coming into the next game, we've got 2 free transfers that we'll discuss, that we'll want to do a little bit later. But just having a look at the team, Sanchez unfortunately got that red card, so got a -1 for us. Not the best result for him, but I still think it's not worth playing around with your goalkeeper, and that's also why we went with Steele, just for in case something like this happens, we have a backup playing goalkeeper. So then moving on to Trent Alexander-Arnold, and actually we can talk about the whole defense, just playing so good at the moment. Trent Alexander-Arnold scoring massive 12 points, Cancelo 14 points, Reece James 7 points. I think at the moment this is probably the best back three you can have with Livramento, because he also just keeps returning. So really happy with how this team is looking, and especially on the defensive side. As you guys can see, every single defender for us, even the guys on the bench, got a clean sheet. Trent getting 12, Cancelo 14, James 7, Livramento 6, Tomiyasu 5. So I'm really happy with how this team is looking at the moment, especially our defenders, as I said. Then moving on to our midfields, Smith Rowe for 5, I think we got him at 5.5 million. Really happy with how this guy's looking. He's so attacking, probably one of the best attackers in that Arsenal side. I can probably say he's better than Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at the moment. Just he looks so good and getting into the right positions, receiving good passes, making good passes. So really happy with having him in my team as that sub, not that sub, but like a 7th attacking guy. Just because we can rotate him with, as you guys saw, we have a pretty good defense depending on what the fixtures look like. He is cheap enough for me to leave him on the bench and not feel too bad. He's not as expensive as Rafinha or Havertz, so I don't mind putting that money on the bench. Then Salah, our captain, getting 1 return, just an assist this time. But I just think going with the Mo Salah captain for the rest of the season doesn't look like a bad option. There is probably some fixtures you can target if you have the right players, but at the moment it doesn't make sense to move your captain from him just because he is captained by so many people, and if you don't captain him and he goes big, you lose a lot of points and you lose a lot of positions in the overall rankings. Then Rafinha getting another goal, beautiful free kick actually. Some might say he's lucky because he hasn't been looking too good, but free kicks is no luck. There's really just, he's good at it, and he is one of the best attackers, especially for that 6.5 million price bracket. Then Havertz getting his 2nd return in 2 games. I think this was a short-term move, and we probably look to move him on because Lukaku and Timo Werner is back in training. I'm not too sure for Timo Werner, but I did see pictures of Lukaku being back in training, so someone we might look at to just replace at the moment. But really happy for him. We had him for 4 weeks. He blanked 2, returned 2, so not too bad. If everybody in this team returns 50% of the time, we will already be in a good overall rank come the end of the season. Then Tony, probably the most disappointing one in the team, just because he has the fixture runs. He looked really good before the fixture runs. That's why we got him in. And now at the moment, not returning anything. I think Brentford doesn't look the same team that as the start of the season, and that's really disappointing. Just because we thought him and Mbuemo and probably a defender were looking so good because of the fixture run. But they still have a couple of good fixtures coming up. But at the moment, Tony's really disappointing. Jamie Vardy that we brought in for Lukaku that we spoke about, I don't think we'll go back to Lukaku. It's just easier moving on to someone else with better fixtures. But Vardy, we brought him in for 3 games, 3 blanks, or 4 games I think, and 4 blanks. So not the most exciting of signings we had this season. Then Jimenez coming in with 2 points. I think Jimenez has also returned 2 out of the last 4 games, so not too bad, and I like his price point at the moment. Then Steele, as you guys know, he's just there for Sanchez. If Sanchez gets a red card or loses a game through injury, as happened in Game Week 12, so then it's a perfect solution. Then Livramento and Tomiyasu, I'm just going to put in one. The defenders there, the least amount of money possible to get a defender at the moment, playing defender. So that's why we got them, and they're doing exactly their job. It's not nice having points on the bench, but this is what you want actually. Low price players getting maximum return on points. So really happy with how this team is setting up. And then Brownhill, again, he played 90 minutes, got a yellow card, but that's what we call him here on this channel, the yellow card machine, just because he's probably going to get a suspension soon for accumulating five yellow cards. He plays 90 minutes, he's cheap, and he's probably going to be third on our bench most game weeks. Moving on to our Game Week 12 team, as you guys can see, there is a couple of new faces in the team, 3 to be exact, just because we have 2-3 transfers, and Sanchez got that red card, so he is suspended for this game. Starting at the back, we've got Steele. Like we said, this is exactly why we got Steele in. Because if Sanchez doesn't play or is injured, or like in this case he gets a suspension, Steele will move straight into that starting position, as been confirmed by Potter. So we don't even need to worry. Don't need to make a transfer like a lot of guys on a backup goalkeeper for this week, just because we already have one. Then moving on to Trent Alexander-Arnold, or even let's do our backline all together. Playing a 4 at the back this week, just because I think Livramento against Norwich got a higher ceiling than Emil Smith-Rowe against Liverpool. Just because Norwich is the worst attacking team and probably the defensive team in the league at the moment. Southampton lost 6 or 5 games, really looking good. So Trent Alexander-Arnold against Arsenal, I think, as we saw, doesn't matter who they're playing, Trent Alexander-Arnold and guys like Cancelo can score against anyone. So having a big back 4 for me at the moment, I was considering Reguilon in the place of Livramento or someone like that. Just not enough money at the moment, but that I might be looking to go more big at the back, as the people would say, just because the defensive teams, they have a couple of nice fixtures. I mean, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo and James, as we saw, they've been outperforming some of the strikers in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So for me, I still think there's a lot of value in defense, just because you get clean sheets, you get attacking returns like we see with these guys. So if you can invest a little bit more money in the back line, I think over the strikers at the moment, it's a really good option, just because there is so many great defenders that plays in attacking positions at the moment. So I really like having more strength at the back. Then moving on to our captain, Mo Salah against Arsenal. As we saw against Man United, Salah doesn't care who he's playing against, he will score points. And I think, like I said in the review as well, captaining Salah at the moment just looks like the most obvious decision, because a lot of people is on him, and as we saw when we captained Havertz, he can score against anyone, and then your rank really drops very fast if he gets a return or 2 returns. So I think for the foreseeable future, until there's something better, I just can't see myself moving from Salah as captain. Then Rafinha against Tottenham, really not the best fixture, but like I said, Rafinha can score against anyone at any game. He is really that good, and he's probably more in the class of 8 million, and then his price at the minute is 6.5 million. So I just like him for his price range, for the attacking returns he's getting, and I just think he's a great option. Then our first transfer for this game week, Jota coming in for Havertz. Like I said in the review, Timo Werner and Lukaku is coming back, or Lukaku's already been spotted in training. So that means I think Havertz will still get this game, but from the next game he won't be playing. And I just think Lukaku comes straight back into the team once he's fit, and that means there is no place for Havertz in the starting 11, and we don't want to sit with a guy that costs 8 million on our bench or get 0 points. I mean, we can distribute those funds and maybe get that better defender, like I said, Reguilon or Emerson, really looking good at the moment. But now we decided to go for Jota, just because of the Bobby Firmino injury. I think that means Jota definitely starts, and it's not just for this week. If Firmino is injured for a month, that gives you up until middle December. That gives you another 2 weeks before the African Cup of Nations starts. So that means Salah and Mane is going away. In that case, Jota will either fill in as a striker or one of the wings, but it definitely gets a spot in the team. And I think for 7.5 million playing for Liverpool, yes, you might say if Mane, Salah and Firmino is not playing, the attack doesn't look that good, but they've still got Trent Alexander-Arnold, they've still got Robertson supplying those balls, and I don't think it will make a huge difference whether Salah or Mane is there. I just think without a team, yes, without those two people, yes, they are weaker, but he still just cost 7.5 million. It's not like you're paying a premium price for a player that's probably going to get you return one in every 2 games. So paying that price for a player that will return that often, I just think it's a no-brainer for me. And like we said, every time one of those front three get injured and Jota gets minutes, he is the guy to go for in that 7.5-8 million price range. So I can't see that this not being a good decision at the end of the day. Moving on to our strikers, and as you guys can see, another transfer. But let's start with Tony playing against Newcastle. I think Tony's got a point to prove this week, just because, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he was at Newcastle, they rejected him, he moved, and now he's back in the Premier League facing his old team. So I think he's got a point to prove, to show them I was good enough, here I am, and scoring goals against you guys. So I really think this is a great option, and if there's a game that you expect Tony to return, it's probably against Newcastle. I know last week against Norwich didn't go well, but Newcastle is probably up there with Norwich as one of the weaker defensive sides, and Eddie Howe coming in doesn't make them a better, I think it makes them a better attacking team, but not a better defensive team. So I do expect at least a return from Tony in this week. I think Brentford had a couple of weeks, not a lot of international players, so they had time to work on a couple of things that's been bothering them over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I do expect them to bounce back, just because if they can get those form from the first couple of weeks, they really look like a team that's in the Premier League to stay, and Tony will be the main guy in that team. Then our second transfer, Harry Kane, I think coming up with this run of fixtures, and I don't want to be like chasing goals, but he did score 7 goals in the international break. Yes, it was against weaker quality sides. Leeds, you can probably say, is better than the sides he faced, but he still scored 7 goals, and I think the only thing Harry Kane lacked at the moment was confidence. Scoring 7 goals doesn't matter against who it is, it will give you confidence. So Harry Kane, for me, probably a captaincy option this week, because we know how weak Leeds is. They are conceding the most goals through the middle of the park, and that's where Harry Kane will play. I think Antonio Conte had 2 weeks. Yes, his international players wasn't there to work with, but I did hear he gave them homework to do while they were on international duty, studied game plans, watched footage and stuff like that. And I do expect Conte to bring the best out of Kane. So I really like this move. Then moving on to Jimenez, I think Jimenez is probably one that will be looking to move on, just because there is a couple of great options at the moment. Someone like Wilson, like we said, I think with Eddie Howe coming in, making them a better team, not a better team, a better attacking team, and Wilson will be his main guy. He worked with him at Bournemouth, they understand each other. Wilson was a pretty good goal scorer under him when they were playing together, so someone I will probably might be looking to move forward to. He's facing a very good West Ham at the moment. We saw them beat Liverpool last week. We can probably talk about Antonio as well. There's a couple of guys you can rotate in this position, just because they are more or less the same team. Yes, we did lose a lot of value when we transferred out Antonio, but I just think there's a lot of better options at the moment until game week 16. Then we'll be looking to bring him back. Moving on to our bench at the moment, Sanchez straight swap for Steele, and he gets his first bench for this year. Probably not going to happen too often. I think after the suspension he will be back in the starting lineup and Steele will drop back. But that's exactly why we went with the 1 and 2 options from a team. Just because if something like this happens, now people will be sitting with a non-playing goalkeeper and maybe Sanchez, so they will need to make a transfer to get a goalkeeper, where we can just swap our team and have a goalkeeper. Doesn't matter what happens in the team, unless the game gets cancelled, we won't have a keeper. But I think with the COVID settling down and becoming a little bit more relaxed, there is no chance of that happening, so we will always have a keeper playing. Then Smith Rowe, as I discussed with Livramento, I just think going by the fixture, Livramento's got a better option, a better chance of scoring points this week for me, and that's why we went with Livramento over Smith Rowe. Brownhill playing against Crystal Palace, I said he'd probably be third on our bench for the rest of the season, but coming up against Crystal Palace, comparing that to Tomiyasu that plays against Liverpool, Liverpool's got a couple of injuries, but I do expect him to score at least 1 goal, so that means Tomiyasu won't get a clean sheet. He's not the most attacking fullback, so he won't get attacking returns, so I think putting him third on the bench is fine. Getting a Brownhill against Crystal Palace, yes, Crystal Palace has looked good in the last couple of weeks, but it's still just Crystal Palace. There's a couple of new faces in, the manager's new, but it's not the best defense. I know over the last couple of games they've looked really, really good, but I do expect Brownhill and Burnley to score, because just they've played so well the last game against who they played. I can't remember now, but they really played really good. So guys, that's it for me for this game week. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, give me a subscribe, and follow me on this journey as we push for that. I said at the beginning of the season, top 100k. We're in that at the moment, so I think the next milestone is probably pushing for that top 50k. Really happy with how the team is looking at the moment. I am still haven't decided if I'm going to captain Kane. There is still a shout for him, definitely probably next week. So I am really looking forward to just continuing this season. Really had a good start. But like I said, in this next 10 weeks, it's 10 game weeks, it's probably where you will see if you're going to have a good season or not. So it's a really good time for you guys to work hard on your team, make good decisions, not take too many hits, and hopefully you guys climb up those rankings and get those green arrows. Good luck with the game week, guys. Cheers.